And good
And
evening,
good evening,
everybody.
everybody.
Welcome to the
Welcome to
latest
the
edition of His
edition
City
of his
Predicts.
Predicts.
I'm Rick
I'm
Hampton,
Rick
I'm
Hampton,
the former New
former
Jersey
New
Nets
Jersey
shooting
Nets
guard,
shooting guard,
Derrick Gervin,
Derrick Gervin,
coming to you on a
coming to you on a
Sunday.
Sunday.
Hope
Hope
everybody had a
everybody had
great
a good
weekend.
weekend.
And
And
Derrick, how you
Derrick,
doing, man?
Doing all right today. Still kind of recovering from my disappointment last night, but other than that, I'm doing fine.
Hey, it's not
It's not
often
often
that we get
that we
a
get a
big fight,
big fight,
like
you know,
back in
like
the
that.
day. But this
But
was
this was
one of the big
one of the big
ones,
ones.
Crawford
Crawford
versus Smith.
versus Smith.
Well, it was built up to be a big one. I'll say that.
Yeah.
I haven't recovered today. I'm a big Errol Spence fan, but also I'm a guy that have to go by what I saw, and it saddened me because I was just trying to figure out how Errol could really win this fight. Me being a big fan, and sometimes that makes us kind of blind ourselves, and I kind of did that. I was hoping Earl could pull it off, but man, Bud Crawford is a beast, as they say, one of a kind. Definitely, in my mind, the best pound-for-pound fighter currently at this time.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're both great fighters. And I love how Spence, he showed pure class after getting beat. And since he wants to rematch, what do you think about a rematch? What would he have to do different?
Honestly, Ricky, I don't think there's anything he can do differently. I mean, he's fought 29 fights. And, they say at some point you are who they say you are. Errol is a come straight forward fighter. And as we saw last night, that doesn't work against a guy with the skill set and the movement and the boxing IQ of a Terrence Crawford. So Errol was talking about having a rematch at 154 pounds later in the year. But honestly, I think the more he thinks about it and sits back and really looks over the film from the first fight and talks with Derrick James and the people surrounding him, I don't think he'll even want a rematch after this.
Yeah, but he's a great fighter, man.
Yeah, but Ricky, you don't want to become one of those guys where they call, where you're just the guy that they use to get to build up these champions. At some point, if you look at it, Errol has had a rough last few years. He had 2 car accidents. He had a detached retina. So he's had some obstacles he's had to overcome. And if you look at him last night, I don't know if it's the weight. I don't know what it is, but he just looked like he was totally overmatched. He didn't look like they even belonged in the same ring together. And I agree he's a great fighter, but last night he didn't even look like he belonged in the same ring with Terrence Crawford.
And going up in class would make a difference.
I don't think it'd make a difference because he couldn't. Your skill set is the same. If he went up to 160 pounds, he's still a straight come forward guy. And I think what surprised him the most is if you watch the fight, he wasn't able, when they were in the clinches, he wasn't able to push Terrence at all. He wasn't able to move him. If you look at it, Terrence was actually moving Errol backwards. And that's when I really knew the fight was going to be in trouble. It wasn't going to go the way I thought it was. And that was like early in the second round.
Yeah, you're watching the highlights of he got a unified belt in boxing.
Well, I tell you what, if there's anybody deserves it, it's Terrence Bud Crawford, because last night he overcame a lot of the things he talked about that he had been dealing with. He even mentioned them at one time trying to blackball him. So he stayed the course, continued to work on his craft, and last night was a culmination of all those things. And he proved to me that he's the best fighter currently, lacing him up.
We talked some before the fight happened. And you like this. You liken this to the Hearns Leonard matchup back in the day. Was that because of all the build-up? or the styles of both fighters?
It was because of the build-up. Because if I was going to go styles, I would have said more like Ali Frazier. And the reason I say that is because Joe Frazier was a come-forward guy like Errol Spence. And he didn't have a lot of variety to his game. So I would have likened it to that. The reason I said Hagler and, you know, all these guys, Hearns and Leonard, is because of the popularity of the fight, the magnitude. But just looking at the styles, Errol is more like a smoking Joe Frazier, come forward guy and that's all he knows.
Yeah. But although you don't think anything will be different in the second fight, you think
Rickey,
the rematch will happen?
The only thing I think in the second fight that will be different, it will be like 4 or 5 rounds earlier. The fight would end. But Bud has too many weapons for Errol. If you look at it, Bud put a lot more on his jab last night. So he had a power jab working, and that right hand overhand hook. So just the right hand, he basically could beat Errol with just the right hand jab and a right hook. He didn't even have to pull out all of his arsenal. And that's the scary thing. If they was to fight again, I think he would dust Errol off a lot quicker.
Is there anybody out there that can challenge Crawford?
Not at 147 pounds, but I tell you that, okay, I'll take that back. There's 2 guys that I think could challenge him. One would be Keith Thurman, who fights every blue moon now. One time is his name, and I guess that means he's only going to fight one time, every 2-3 years. I think Keith could give him a fight because he has movement and he has power. And then there's Jerron Boots Ennis, up-and-comer, who's a very good fighter, has a skill set similar to Bud's, has power similar to Bud's. And so those would be the 2 guys that I think could give him a fight, but beating him is another, man, that's a different story.
Yeah. Well, it was good to see boxing take that center stage in the world of sports. Like it used to. And we've had some big fights over the years, but this was one of the biggest build-ups.
Rickey,
probably since Mayweather Pacquiao.
You know what was great about it though, Rickey? The 2 guys were very cordial to each other. We had some fans and family members acting like fools, but the 2 guys were very respectful towards one another, and I think that was great. They both made a whole lot of money, a boatload of money, and they didn't forget to congratulate each other. And I was glad to see them hug after the fight, and they both stayed classy.
I appreciate Spence just giving the guy the props to beat him. Say, hey, he's a better man than him.
Well, did you see that face, Rickey? When he started lumping that face up, I was like, oh, my guy's in trouble. And I honestly worried I thought both of them might possibly get injured on their right eye because Bud has a tendency to swell up his right eye. And Errol is, of course, he had the surgery on his right eye. So I thought both guys might end up having a problem with the right eye, but Bud went totally unmarked. It looked like he hadn't even been in a ring. And we saw Errol look like he had been in about 3 or 4 different rings.
Are boxers today able to fight at a higher level later in their careers? Maybe because of the technology and the advancement of modern medicine.
Yeah, I think that's helped a lot. I think I saw someone said 36 is the new 26. It was a boxer said that last week, I believe, or a couple of weeks ago. No, I'm sorry, it was Novak Djokovic said 36 is the new 26. So guys are having extended careers. But the thing is today, Rickey, I don't think you're going to see a lot of extended careers as we move forward because these guys are making a lot of money now. And with the money Spence and Bud were making, just think if they made that money at 25 years old. I think now Errol was 32 or going on 33, and Bud is like 35, going on 36. Yeah. So with these guys like Gervonta Tank Davis and Shakur Stevenson, all these guys coming up now, the up-and-comers, I don't think guys will be choosing to fight as long as they have in the past.
Hey, could Tank Davis move up?
He could, because, you know, your power travels with you. That's one thing. Your last thing to go is your power. My thing with Tank, though, is Tank can be hit a lot to me. And his size, I think, is going to be a disadvantage if he were to fight a guy with a lot of movement and power. So I would think he would have trouble with a guy like a Devin Haney or Shakur Stevenson. But, yes, I think definitely he could move up to the next weight because he has power.
Now to our viewers out there, and we welcome everybody on the show. Although Derrick played, he's always been a big boxing enthusiast. When you were in the Jersey, New York area, did you take in many fights?
Sir, I had a famous encounter in our locker room with the gentleman who was at the fight last night, who was actually the guy that did the coin flip for the fight, Iron Mike Tyson. Mike used to come and watch us play when I was with the Nets. And Evander Holyfield also came to watch us. I actually got to meet them about 2 weeks apart. So, yeah, I got to see Mike Tyson, got to talk to him up front, up close, almost as close as Errol and Terrence were, that close. And so that's my NBA story about boxing.
Yeah. What do you put Tyson in the list of legendary fighters?
Well, I have to put him in. Of course, I got him in top 10 just because of the accolades and all. You know, he brought people out to the stadium. And I mean, if you look at Mike in his prime, I have to put him in the top 10, and that's including all divisions because of how dominant he was in his prime. And we know Mike was the guy who would knock you out the ring with one punch or knock you across the ring. And that's not something you find every day. So for me, he's definitely, without question, a top 10 all-time fighter.
Evander?
I don't have Evander top 10. Evander's one of my top 3 or 4 favorite fighters of all time. But I don't have him overall outside in my top 10 because he struggled with Riddick Bowe. He had a lot of trouble with Lennox Lewis. I would have him in my top 10 as far as just toughness, pure toughness, a guy that's not going to quit, similar to Errol Spence. But overall skill set and his overall career, I wouldn't have him top 10 overall, no.
I know exactly. He was a guy to me that maximized every ounce of ability he had in the ring.
Overachiever. That's what I'm saying. For me, he was definitely overachiever. Other than Pernell Whitaker, he was my favorite fighter in their camp with Lou Duva and Georgie Benton. I'm a big Holyfield fan. I definitely would have him a top 20 fighter for me, but top 10 all time, I'll say he comes up just a little short.
Yeah. I hear you. Hey, let's get to your favorite sport in basketball, the NBA. We were talking the other day about rookie of the year. And everybody is already giving it to Victor Wembanyama, except Derrick
Gervin. I can't give it.
Disrespecting Victor, no disrespect to Victor, but you got a guy in mind for this year's rookie of the year.
Well, I have 2 actually, other than Victor. I have Scoot Henderson, of course. I've stated on many occasions, but I also have Big Chet Holmgren. I think some people forget that Chet will still be classified as a rookie. And so that's the guy that I'm looking at. I think Oklahoma City is on their way upward. They're on the upward trend. I think Shai Gilgeous is going to bring a lot to the table this year. Josh Giddey. And I think they're going to incorporate Big Chet in there. And I think he's going to fit like a glove. And I think he's going to be one of the top contenders for Rookie of the Year, along with Scoot Henderson. Those would be my 2 favorites, even over Victor right now.
But you know what I noticed about him on the defensive end is how well he moves his feet, Derrick.
The guy is very nimble. We haven't seen anybody his size that move like him. I told you, for me, the closest I could even think of would be a Ralph Sampson, but Ralph wasn't as nimble with his feet like a Victor Wembanyama. If you look at Victor with the ball in his hands and all that, he's got a little of the Bud Crawford stuff I was talking about, versatility. And so I think that's going to be, but of course, his offense is going to come last. But I think he's going to have a magnificent career. Whether he'll be Rookie of the Year or not, or depending on the way Pop uses him. But me being down here in San Antonio, I think that Scoot and Chet would have a better opportunity to get Rookie of the Year.
Yeah. This is going to be an exciting NBA season upcoming. Who do you think has helped themselves the most during the offseason so far?
I got to laugh because it's not even a team I'm going to name a player by the name of Jaylen Brown. Oh, my goodness. 5 years, $304 million, $60.8 million a year. So I got to give kudos to Jaylen Brown and his agent. Because I know they weren't like some of their contract is different than Ja Morant's and some of these other guys. So those guys will only be able to get a 4-year maximum deal. Jaylen's stayed the course, trusted his agent, and now you see what happened. Now he's looking at, 5 years, $304 million.
300, yeah. If Jaylen's getting $300 million, somebody's going to get $400 million. Who's going to be the first $400 million?
And that's funny you asked me that, Ricky, because I studied that today. And I can tell you already at the rate they're going right now, the first $400 million player will be residing in Oklahoma City in 2026, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He will be the first guy that will possibly get the $400 million contract. And I've been looking at the collective bargaining agreement and all of that. And, every year the players' salaries are raising. But I looked at it by 2026. Yeah, he would be he'd be eligible for $400 million.
We're watching some of Jaylen Brown's highlights. And he is a really good player. And he worked what you get in the NBA. But I don't think he's a number one guy.
He's not. But look how it's changed. Ricky, in 2017, Steph became the first $200 million guy. By 2023, we're already at the first $300 million guy. It's just he's in the right place at the right time. That's what the market dictates, and he's a second option. I never thought he was the first option on that team. I still think that Jason Tatum is their first option, a little better player, slightly better player than Jaylen. But, I mean, wow, that's called breaking the bank there. So I have to give him a shout-out. Man, it's $304 million for 5 years. Not bad at all.
Indeed. And bringing in Porzingis probably means his score will go down too, right?
I would think so. The good thing for him, though, Ricky, is when you sign that contract, you have to look at the Celtics more so than you have to look at Jaylen Brown, because they already know he's not the first option. So if he doesn't live up to what he did this past year, I mean, can they really blame him? Bringing in another scorer. So things are going to change overall with their roster. The way they style the play is probably going to change now that they have Porzingis. So, I mean, Jaylen's actually getting a reprieve if he wasn't to play as good as he's expected to play this coming season.
Well, I tell you, I like that front line. If you want to go for Porzingis, Tatum, and put Brown at the small forward.
You still got Robert Williams and Horford, so they got to figure out what they want to do with those guys as well. You bring Robert Williams and Al Horford off the bench and play more so small ball with Jason Tatum at the 4. I could see them doing that today in today's game. But they just got to figure out overall what style of play they're going to play now, because Porzingis is a big guy that can spread the floor, has good range, and he can open up the floor offensively, and that should hopefully take some of the ball handling duties away from Jalen, so he won't have as many turnovers, and it might also take some of the ball handling duties away from Tatum. They won't have to handle in those tight windows, I'll say.
But the key for that team is going to be the play of Brogdon.
Yeah, him and Derrick White, they're going to have to really step up now with losing Grant Williams and losing Marcus Smart. You basically losing the pulse of your team when you talk about their identity being a defensive-minded team, and you lose two of your better defenders. So it's going to be a big load on Derrick White and Malcolm Brogdon. Brogdon should be healthy this year going into camp. So maybe they'll use him in a different capacity. Joe Mazzulla didn't use him the way I thought he should have. I thought Brogdon should have been the starting point guard anyway, and Malcolm and Smart should have been the two guard in my mind.
Yeah. I agree with that. Indeed, we got good news out of Brooklyn. Ben Simmons is 100%. He's ready to rock and roll. No limitations whatsoever.
Now, my question would be 100% of what? Because
you gotta start somewhere, right?
Well, all we can go by still the only evidence we have is the Atlanta Hawks series when he passed up the dunk. Other than that, we haven't seen a whole lot of Ben. So I don't even know what 100% means. The only thing I'll be worried about 100% was him showing up to play every night. I'm not even worried about the production as much as him being on the floor. So hopefully he'll be healthy this year, mentally and physically. And I just hope that we get to see him play. If he plays, he'll definitely help the Nets become a better defensive team. Him and Nick Claxton, and it'll be good to see him just suit up and play some minutes. I think Ben, I'm a fan of Ben, so I want to see him get another opportunity to at least kind of somewhat reach the pinnacle of his career.
And you mentioned him being ready physically and mentally. And really the mental part is an important part of the game that for years has been overlooked. And I was reading today that Rickey Griner, WNBA star for the Phoenix Mercury, is taking a couple of days off for just her mental health. And you know that grind of the long NBA season and a WNBA season isn't that long compared to the NBA, but it's still a grind. Where are we with mental health, and why is that an important aspect of athletics at all levels?
It's so important because you're not the same person. You can't function if you're not mentally clear. And if you look at it a lot of time, like in Ben's situation, Ben has a lot of pressure coming out of high school. Basically, he was a very heralded, top-notch player. He started getting the expectations of being the next Magic Johnson. And that's a lot to live up to. And as you see, he's not a guy that's really going to shoot the ball a lot. So people got on him after the playoffs a couple of years ago. And you got to think about this part, what makes it hard, Ricky. These guys, people forget, these are human beings just like we are. And they go outside their homes. And a lot of times when you go outside your home and, if you didn't play well or you didn't play up to people's expectations, I'll say that. People can be cruel. And a lot of this stuff you hear today with social media, some of this stuff you wouldn't have heard in the past when people have negative things to say about these athletes and other and people in these other professions. But today, everything seems to get back to you. And I don't know why some people feel like if you don't read certain things or hear certain things, they feel like they got to fill you in anyway and come and just give you the news. And that makes it hard, going out of your house every day. So I worry about people like Ben. And then you look at Brittany Griner. She's been through an ordeal. We know what went on in Russia. I don't have to go through rehash all of that. But a lot of people today have felt like she's a traitor. And she's been called that. And everyone hasn't welcomed her. A lot of people, I was glad to see a lot of people reach out to her when she came back to the WNBA. but for every positive person, you know there's going to be a negative person or two. And that makes it hard because these are the things you have to read about yourself every day or every other day. And your family has to read this stuff about you. Your kids have to read this kind of stuff. And that makes it hard to deal with. So I'm glad people like Kevin Love came out a couple years ago and started bringing more awareness to this mental health situation. This is a very serious thing, and people need to start being a little more mindful when they say some of the things that they say about these athletes and people in these other professions as well.
Well, you know, and you mentioned some of it earlier. The internet has changed tremendously.
Can you imagine how Errol Spence feels today, Ricky? Because you got all these people, you know, strap season and man down and all of that, right? And then today, some of them turned on Errol. I'm still an Errol Spence fan. Things just didn't go well. You shake it off and you come back to fight another day. And that's the same in basketball and all these other sports. But people just need to stop being so cruel. Mental health is no joke. And this is what they all need to remember. It can always be you or someone in your family. And that's the thing that we should never forget.
Yeah. Well, that's so well said, Dave. I want to ask you about Joel Embiid, who has citizenship in France, also here in America, has been asked by both countries to play in the Olympics. Grant Hill talked about trying to get Joel on the roster. Your thoughts about him playing if he would have played with the USA team. Obviously, that's a great addition.
I just don't see it though. I think he's gonna go the other way. I think today now at this time is when a lot of players overseas are laughing, saying, "Yeah, we knew we could get those Americans. We could outplay those guys over there." And so now they're getting a chance to show it. And if you look at it, if you were to look at this team, Rudy Gobert, Joel Embiid, Victor Wembanyama, I can name Luka Doncic. That's a powerful team. And I think Joel is a guy that seems to have an allegiance to France and overseas. So I would be very surprised if he played for the United States. Of course, that's what I want because I want us to take home the gold. But I think he'll end up playing for France or playing for the Europe.
And you know, we just talking about social media. Just think that if he decides to play for France, the hit he's going to take here in America on social media.
Yeah, well, I think he doesn't care because they already take so many hits. I mean, I guess he said he can't take as many hits as Kevin Durant and LeBron take. So, and in that capacity, he's doing fine. But I don't think guys worry about that. I think you develop these friendships. And, people only look at the actual games when they're participating against one another. But a lot of these guys are friends and they have these alliances. And I just think Joel, for me, I'd be shocked if he were to play for the United States, and especially with what's going on right now with him in the Philadelphia 76ers.
Yeah. Where is Philly going into this season?
We don't know because every other day I'm reading about Harden, these possible trade scenarios, and nothing's happening right now. It's going to be something that's going to probably drag on through the summer. And I don't think
he's coming to camp.
Yeah, he'll be coming to camp, but we know that doesn't mean anything. He's just coming into camp to show other teams that he's coming in shape, better shape than he has in the past. And I don't fault James Harden for being unhappy this year, Ricky. The man took a $15 million pay cut, and he was promised a lot of things by Daryl Morey and their organization. So he doesn't feel they kept their end of the deal. So he has a right to want to opt out. And even though he opted in with the contract at $35.4 million, I only think he did that just so he could be moved. And so I still see him ending up somehow with the LA Clippers.
Yeah, Yeah.
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 And speaking of movement, the other big name still out there is Damon Lillard. That's been kind of quiet lately. We hear Miami. But surely they aren't the only team interested in acquiring him.
Well, you got three more teams that have come into the mix. Of course, Boston Celtics still are interested. I don't know how that'll end up playing out. But now I've been hearing about the New York Knicks. And then recently, the last two teams I've heard about are the Utah Jazz and the Brooklyn Nets. So I don't know. This Dame stuff is kind of crazy. I hope whatever, they go ahead and get some kind of solution so this can be over with. And it's only fair as well to those players in Portland. Scoot Henderson shouldn't have to be confused all the way up into training camp as to how far they're going to take him this year. Are they going to go ahead and make him the starter for 30 minutes this year? So they got stuff they have to figure out. But I hope whatever it is, Dame has added these few more teams to the list, Ricky. So that's a good thing. So I guess the things are still going on behind closed doors.
And the best fit for him, you told me before.
For me, it's Boston. For me, hands down, the best fit is the Boston Celtics. Hands down. Malcolm Brogdon. You got Derrick White. One of them come off the bench. You got Dame Lillard. You got Jaylen Brown. You got Jason Tatum. You got Porzingis. You got Al Horford, who still has maybe something left in the tank. And you still got Robert Williams. So I think for me, it makes sense. You could walk into a team that's championship ready right now.
Who would you give up?
Well, if I had, they would probably have to give up. I would imagine to get Dame, they would have to give up Derrick White for one. Probably a couple of those young guys. This kid Hauser, who's a shooter, they would probably have to give up 3 players, I'd say. And then we're looking at probably 3 or 4 first-round draft picks, Ricky. Dame's going to command that kind of – he has that kind of leverage. All you got to do is look at Rudy Gobert.
Wow. That's well, you know what? Though? Something's going to have to happen soon because bro, we're headed into August. You know, the NFL training camps are open. Before you know it, NBA training camp is going to be here.
Teachers will be back in school on August the 2nd, Ricky.
Yeah.
That's how quick time is moving, flying by. So whatever they do, man, I just hope Portland I'm just tired of hearing about Dame in Portland. I think it's time now to let him go. He had his allegiance for 11 years. He was very loyal to them. They were very loyal to him. Now it's time for him to go to the next phase of his career. And I hope he goes ahead and ends up with a team that has a chance to win, whether it be Miami, the Knicks, or Boston.
Yeah. Hey, and speaking of good news, it's good to see Bronny James was released from the hospital the other day. And was that young man well after that had to be just a frightening time for the James family.
Man, I'm so happy he's doing better, Ricky. I actually just saw him playing the piano, sitting at home playing the piano. He's actually a pretty good player. And what I like about it is LeBron said, you didn't see LeBron's face, but you heard him say the young man has many talents. And so that was kind of, in my mind, a reference to what's going on in that right now. I kind of took it as LeBron was saying, people don't worry about my boy. I appreciate it. But whatever he chooses to do, he's going to be all right.
Yeah. We definitely wish him well. And speaking of the NFL, we like to talk a little football on as good as it gets. You know, this whole situation with the running backs out there. You've been a professional athlete, negotiated contracts, set in on contracts. I mean, Saquon Barkley had to bite the bullet and sign, and I think the Pollard signed in Dallas. I think they're still holding out as Josh Jacobs right now.
Hey, Ricky, can I read this off to you? I'm going to show you how quickly the running back spot has changed. Here are your top 10 running backs from 10 on down. This is how they rate it right now. You got Breece Hall, who you probably never heard of, right? The New York Jets.
New York Jets.
Came in as a rookie, averaged 5.8 yards a carry. They were 5-2, and then he tore his meniscus. He's number 10. Travis Etienne, Jacksonville. Jonathan Taylor, the Colts. Austin Eckler, the Chargers. Alvin Kamara. Nick Chubb, number 5. Derrick Henry, rated number 4. Josh Jacobs, number 3. Saquon Barkley, number 2. And Christian McCaffrey, rated number 1. Half of these guys, do you even know who they are?
No.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's not like the old days when that position was one of the premier positions in football.
Well, you know where that money's going now. You got people like Justin Herbert just signed for $252 million. So there's a quarterback signing for $50+ million, and they haven't even got to Joe Burrow yet. So just think about that. Patrick Mahomes with the $400 million. So it looks like the money is going to the quarterbacks, and defensively now it's people like Aaron Donald. So, you know, defensive linemen, linebackers. So we've seen a changing of the guard. It used to be the running backs right after the quarterback. That's not happening now. Changing of the guard.
Yeah, Dalvin Cook. In fact, this is Dalvin Cook. He's looking for a job. I mean,
I got a team for him, Ricky. It sounds like the New York Jets.
Yeah, he's in New York today. Actually.
Sound like that's where he'll be. I mean, that's quite a combination. Him and Aaron Rodgers, not too bad a start.
Yeah. Who do you like? I guess everything starts in Kansas City, right?
Oh, boy. Yeah, and they already fired up. Travis Kelce already firing on people in camp. So I see the tensions are high.
He got the fight. He got in a little scuffle.
Yeah, I saw him hit the guy after he caught the pass, and he didn't like the guy making contact with him. So I'm excited to see these guys already edgy. The good thing, though, out of all of this is the Joe Burrow injury was something that was minor. I think a calf strain. Yeah. So that's okay. Of course, Jalen Ramsey got hurt. I think he a meniscus injury. So he might miss up to half the season, maybe even a little longer. So I'm sorry to hear that. But that's really the only thing I focus on right now, Ricky, is who's getting hurt and who's recovering.
Yeah, that plays such a big role. There's a big role in all sports, but it's really a big deal in professional football. Who can stay healthy? Because you can lose guys and it'll ruin your doggone season. And I forgot to mention Ezekiel Elliott still looking for work.
Well, he just had
New England the other day, but didn't sign.
Yeah.
This guy, and he's 20 years old.
And I saw him eating dinner with Mac Jones. How things can change overnight. It just seems like yesterday he was being lauded for signing the 5-year, $90 million deal. And here we are. It seems like just like a day later, his career has changed. He went from being the premier running back, and it doesn't seem like very long, Ricky. The premier running back to a guy now that's trying to scrap, just basically trying to catch on to a team.
Yeah, he was the fourth pick in the 2016 draft.
Everybody wanted Ezekiel coming out of Ohio State. There's not a team I think would have passed up Ezekiel Elliott if they had an opportunity to take him. And now we're looking at the team that he goes to, he'll probably just be going on as an addition in case their starter gets hurt. That's that, man. How things can change quickly.
Yeah. For sure.
On
that, T. We're heading down the home stretch here. Go ahead. You gonna say something?
No, I'm good. I'm just thinking about Ezekiel. I'm just hoping he catches on to some team, because I think he still has a little bit left in the tank, and I don't want to see him have to retire at 28 years old.
Oh, and one more guy. There's so many of these running backs. Jonathan Taylor from the
Colts.
He's not in camp. He wants to be traded. He's in the final year of his rookie contract. He's been great for them the first 4 years.
But hey, Ricky, I got a question for you. You were a sports writer for 35 years, right?
Yes, sir.
So we're gonna just talk about common sense for a second. Don't you think the best way to get traded or something is to honor your current contract and let the team work on it, as opposed to you sitting out? Because by you sitting out, aren't you telling this other team that he might be capable of doing the same thing with our organization?
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
Yeah. Well, I told George when George was getting traded, I always thought he should go to practice. When Cotton Fitzsimmons when they were going through their thing, he didn't want to go to practice. I thought it looked better to go to practice so that when they start talking about the negativity, you're not part of that conversation. You've only shown us the positive side, and then that usually makes the other team seem to be more willing to embrace you to come to their organization. That's just my thinking.
Yeah, I definitely get that outlook on that. And Taylor is, he's coming off an injury to his back, and he had ankle surgery. And that's what the guys are worried about, man.
But he has to understand that you just coming off 2 injuries, and now you're talking like you're in demand. We know you've played some great football, but you also got to factor in the 2 injuries. That's what the other teams are factoring in, and they're not saying he's not a great player. They're just saying they're a little reluctant to want to hand out their dollars because they don't know how healthy he's going to be and for how long, and he has to understand that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, hey, starting Thursday, we'll have football, albeit preseason football.
That's okay. Preseason is better than no football. Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. And before you know it, you're going to have the colleges kicking in, and we'll be off and running.
Hey, Ricky, you mentioned the $400 million in basketball. So we already got the $400 million in football with Mahomes. I'm interested to see what's going to happen with Joe Burrow's contract. That's all I've been thinking about.
Woo.
Yeah, that's about it.
And look, Burrow, had an injury scare. He's out for a few days. But they're going to have to pay him, man.
Oh, they going to break the bank for him. If you look how long Jalen Hurts was the highest paid quarterback. You knew that wasn't going to last long.
Yeah.
That only lasted a day or two.
Yeah.
Herbert
is making $52 million a year with $262 million contract.
Yeah, and Burrow's going to probably get $400 million and less years than Patrick Mahomes got.
Absolutely. But the only thing, man, he gets hurt.
Yeah, but they don't care. If you look at the good thing, though, Ricky, what helps him is you got to look at the team he's playing for. The Cincinnati Bengals. It's not like they've been tearing it up since the 1970s. We got to go all the way back, and then you could start talking about what's his left hand, Boomer Esiason and all those guys, and go way back even further to the Ken Anderson days. So it's not like they've been doing so well. So when you get he's a once in a generation player, and he's already proven pretty much that he can win at LSU. So they're gonna break the bank for this guy without question.
You gotta pay him, and you gotta protect. That's for sure.
I went way back with Ken Anderson, man.
Ken Anderson to Isaac Curtis.
Oh boy, well, see, you talking now. Those the Bengals. Those the uniforms I'm used to. Those are real Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, they high-powered offense back then. Hey, D, we're gonna get out of here. I think I'm having some technical difficulties, but we'll get that fixed by next Wednesday. We do this again. Any final thoughts?
Well, I just want to say, Errol Spence, I'm still your guy, man. Hopefully you'll still stay on the straight and narrow like he was. He's matured a lot since his car accident, and I hope he doesn't get too down. I actually want to see him come back and fight again, but if he were to call it a day, I'm saluting him. He's a guy that I've looked up to as a fighter. I like how he carries himself in and out of the ring, and I just want to wish him well moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, congratulations to both the champ and to Spence. That was boxing at its best. It wasn't a great fight because it was so dominant by Crawford, but I like you said, I just love the way the guys carry themselves.
Ricky, they're both two family guys. One day we'll talk about these Charlos, but I'll leave it at that. Both of these guys were two well-behaved gentlemen, Errol and Bud. So I salute them both. They're good for the sport of boxing.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Hey, well, we're going to get out of here for Derrick Gervin. I'm Rickey Hampton. Hope you have a great week. We'll see you Wednesday, 9 o'clock. Peace, everybody.
I love you, Ricky. Have a good night. Thanks for tuning in, listeners. Have a great night.